Welcome to today's homework video. We are going to make a copy of this Van Goyen landscape from 1646, and we're going to actually use it as a color study. So we're going to look at how the artist has used color. We're going to simplify what they do, and we're going to practice mixing the colors that they've used and try to understand how they've arranged them on the page. So we're going to do this as a series. Eventually we're going to start landscape painting outside in plein air, and so the study of these artworks are going to help us to be prepared to do that in a more expert way. This is going to work just like a regular painting copy. At first we're going to measure the painting, which is 4.5 by 6 7/8. So my paper is 6. I'm going to divide it into 3, and then I have to divide 4.5, which is going to be 2 1/4 on each side. And I'm going to measure in 2 places. We have been measuring rectangles for a very long time in this program, and so hopefully this will be simple for you. Now I'm going to divide the long side, which is 9, so we're going to divide that into 4.5, and then 6 3/4 is about 7. So I want to go 3.5 minus a 16th. I'm going to do this one again. Okay, 3.5 minus a 16th. And I'm going to measure it twice so that I have tick marks. Okay, 3.5 minus a 16th. 3.5 minus a 16th. Okay, and this is going to show me exactly how big my rectangle is. And I always want to use light construction lines so that I don't make a mess, but ultimately we're going to paint over this, so I'm not too worried. So I have my rectangle that is centered on the page, and then I am going to stretch my paper. So I'm using masking tape, as we always do. I'm gonna stick it to my clothes. I'm gonna do a little more than half off, because I'm actually gonna do 2 layers. I'm gonna tape this whole edge. So if I go all the way up to the line with the first piece of tape, I'm not gonna have enough of the adhesive of the tape to actually stick it down. So I'm gonna make 2 layers here. This. Okay, so now I'm going to run this tape right up against this pencil line, and that is going to help me a lot, because I don't have to paint to the edge. I can paint over this tape, and I can maintain my nice white border, because the tape will protect the paper. So you can do this right along with me after you center the rectangle. Okay. The rest of what I want to do to get set up to paint is to put paint on my palette, and we're always going to put it in the same order, because we don't want to think about where the paint is. We want to already know. So we're going to do these essentially in rainbow order so that we can get as close to analogous as we can. I'm going to put down a black as if it is a color. and it wants to splatter. Okay, and I'm gonna put down 2 whites. I'm getting close to the end of this white, which means I should either order more or go buy some more. Now we use white more than other colors, and so you could be running out. So just be aware of that. You need to replace it if it's running out. And then I'm gonna put some medium down. And I could circle this with a Sharpie or something if I'm afraid that I'm not gonna remember that that's white. So we'll do this. Okay, to remember that that's medium. Once you remember and you're in the habit, you won't have to do that. Okay, I've also got my color wheel. I need some paint, water, which I'm gonna put over here, and I need paper towels. Okay. So when we're looking at a landscape, we need to simplify, because if we look at an actual landscape, it's very complex. We have, you know, a billion blades of grass, we have millions of leaves, we have complicated tree formations, and many different, usually shades of certain colors, like especially green or brown. And so what we're gonna do in order to approach the landscape in a way that is manageable for us is we're gonna simplify to 3 colors. So if we look at Van Goyen's landscape and try to simplify it, because this is getting us ready to handle an actual landscape, I'm going to simplify this to a brown. So I see brown happening a lot here, even though they're slightly different from each other. I'm going to count them as 1. And then we have a gray, okay, and we have like a dark blue gray and a white. So I'm not going to count the white. I'm just going to actually make that, count that as actual white so that I don't have to mix it. So we're going to mix these 3 colors in order to get ready to paint this landscape. In order to help me do that, I'm going to look at the color wheel that I made, because these colors enable are what I can make from this palette. I can make more, I can combine more than 2 colors. I can complicate this a little bit, but I want to look at this as a basic reference. So what I think I want is a reddish brown. So this is orange red plus a little bit of black, because we're going to use black as a color because our palette is so limited. So let me start with that one. And in order to mix orange red, I've got to mix orange. And again, I want more red, but the yellow is a much weaker pigment. So I can get orange red probably with equal amounts. Okay, see, I've got orange red. And then I'm gonna put a little bit of black in here because I want to change the color to brown, but I don't want it to turn completely black. And this actually might be too much. This is okay. I'm gonna live with this. I can see it as brown. It hasn't totally turned black, but I maybe could have added a little less black so that it would be more distinct. And then in terms of a gray, I'm gonna pick something from off my color wheel and then modify it a little bit. So I like something like this. It's like a purpley, maybe in between these two, for the gray, and then add some brown. So I don't have exactly the color that I want on here, but this is gonna help me get started. So I'm gonna start with making a purpley color, and I want to make a fair amount of it because I want to be able to use it to paint this painting. This is way too blue. Blue is my strongest color. That's going to be the strongest color in this palette. Yellow is the weakest, red is in between. Now, just to see what color I really have, I'm going to jump off and mix it with a little bit of white. Okay, that's not too bad. I do, however, want it to be a little more brown, so let me add a little bit more red and a little bit more yellow just to push it into brown. So again, I can make brown by using all of the primary colors, and I can also classify brown as orange. So if I don't have red and blue, then I'm not there. Okay, let's kick some of this into here and see if I'm closer. Still not quite as brown as I want it to be. Okay, now I'm gonna add a little bit of black. That might be too much black, okay. And again, I'm trying to make a little pile of this color. Okay, and let's mix this in with it and see if we can be happy with that. Yeah, maybe. So you're doing just what we did in class, and you're mixing the color to your satisfaction, and you're trying to match it to what you see in the painting. Okay, the last thing, this kind of blue-black color, I'm gonna add a little bit of red to some blue and then add black. So here's my little bit of red. I'm gonna add it to some blue, because this is a blue-black. Okay, I'm happy enough with that. So I have my 3 colors, and I'm going to start to lay these in, and then I'm gonna add white. So let's see if we can just get these colors placed. So I'm gonna start with this brown. No, actually, I changed my mind. I'm gonna start with this grayish brown, and I'm gonna try to match where the color is on the painting as best I can. And these are clouds. I need to add a little white here so that my color lightens. I don't want to lighten all of it. I'm just gonna do some. And I don't quite know what color it is until I actually put it on the painting, so, you know, you might be surprised. This is fairly gray. But I'm trying to copy these shapes as best I can, and I'm creating the structure of a painting like we're always discussing. We're trying to build it. Because these shapes are going to help guide other shapes that we'll eventually use. So we want to try to lay these in a way that will help us. Okay, I want to put this horizon in here. So Van Goyen uses some really important devices here. He's got this light that emanates from the center left of the painting, and that helps give not only drama, but it also helps us see these silhouettes against the sky. And then he's got this really dark shape in the front that helps bring the painting forward to us. This also brings the painting forward. So this contrast between dark and light is helping create space in the painting. So just to make this simple and easy to follow, I'm gonna finish with this gray. I'm just gonna put it in the places where I mostly see it. And I can paint over this, so if I make a mistake, it's not a big deal. But I am trying to lay a groundwork or a structure on which I can continue to work. Trying to extend my paint a little bit by using medium so that I don't have to mix again right away, at least. Okay, so let's see if we can get this in here. Okay, I want to keep this triangular area here so that we can keep going with the structure of the painting even when we get to another color. And again, this is acrylic, it's not watercolor, so I can paint over it. So I can paint right where these ships are going to be and then deal with it later. Okay, so there's one of my colors. And now I'm going to go in here with this brown, and I have the brown in the clouds. And this light that comes from the clouds is like so beautiful. And this is something that I'm learning from Van Goyen as I'm painting, that I can then, when I look at my own landscape, I can see, oh, look at how the light diffuses through the clouds, and I can figure out how to capture that more readily because I've studied the master. So this is why we do this studying of the masters. We're learning directly from Van Goyen. It's like we're talking to him. Okay, so some of these are gonna have to be a little bit lighter, but I can do that with medium later on. I just wanna get color placement here. And you can start to see that it's looking a little bit like a painting here. We're starting to imitate what's going on in the masterwork. Okay, and I want to think about where else. Some brown in here. And then this is an important area because this boat is closer to us, and we can tell that even though the painting is flat, because these guys and this boat are bigger than any of the people over here, which we can't really see. Like that guy's teeny tiny. Okay, now here's an important shape. I'm going to change brushes here so that I can get this a little bit better. I think you have a skinny brush. You have a different set of brushes than I do. And you're welcome to use any of your own brushes if you have a favorite, but we're going to put this shape in here. And then we're going to have to highlight around it with some lighter colors. But this is definitely some brown going on with these guys and the boats and this cluster of action right here on the right hand side. So I'm going to lay that in here. And again, we're doing what we would call a color study, which we're studying the colors. We're also trying to lay in the shapes and see so that we can see the relationships between the colors. But we're not doing exactly the same thing as copying the painting, because that would, be more involved than how we're gonna get here. Okay, I have this white on my palette, but I keep sticking my hand in, so I'm gonna remove it. Okay, the painting's starting to look like something. I can relate new shapes to shapes I already have put down here, which is very helpful. So now I can pay attention to the nuances that are going on. Okay, I'm gonna put a little of this brown in here to see if I can neutralize the color. Okay. This color is a little bit blue for what I want, so I'm gonna add a little more black and maybe some white. I don't really want to lighten it though. Let's see. Okay, let's see what this does. Okay, so to lower the intensity of that blue, which I think I want to do, I've got to move towards orange. So I already have red in here. So if I add yellow, and I might need to add more red, but basically I'm looking for the color across from it on the color wheel. So you can see that blue and yellow, blue and orange are across from each other, so they're gonna lower each other's intensity and move towards gray. I wanna move just a little bit more towards gray than this. Okay, now I'm in the green range. Oh, I'm getting paint on my color wheel. And green and red are across from each other on the color wheel, so that means I wanna add a little more red. So I'm talking through this quickly, but hopefully you can understand the logic of, lowering the intensity means I'm trying to neutralize the color. Okay, let's see how this is. That's a little better. I'm a little happier with that. So I'm gonna put these darks in here. And look, you see this, it's almost like there's moving clouds, even though this painting is still and has been the same for 400 years. We feel this exciting movement of the clouds as if the weather's starting to shift. Okay, and Van Goyen is kind of mixing these colors together in some areas in order to blend. Okay, so and my darkest areas are right along this horizon, very crisp difference, and then right here in the front. And see how that brings the painting forward, the foreground of this painting forward. That's really exciting. And I've got a little bit here, and I'm gonna switch brushes back to my skinny brush. I don't need my brush to be quite this skinny, but this is what I have. I think you have one that's a little less skinny, but just apply pressure sparingly and you'll be in good shape. And actually, I kind of like something thicker so that I didn't have to take so many strokes. Okay. I'm gonna use this medium color to paint these guys in the boat. And I'm just gonna look at them like shapes. I'm not gonna worry that they're men with faces and hands. It's not really what's being depicted here. They are, as much as anything, a device that shows me the foreground and allows that sky to push back and be really dramatic. Okay, so we'll keep okay, I'm generally happy with that. And then I want to make this lighter gray. Because that's going to go all through here, and I'm going to paint it straight on, and I'm also going to glaze with it. So Okay, let's see what this color does, because this is getting closer to what I want. So that medium color. So I want something lighter like this, okay? So you see how that's lighter, but then I also want something even lighter than that. So I'm gonna jump off, I'm gonna take part of this, and then I'm gonna put even more white in here. And then I'm probably gonna want like straight white right here so that I can get in that highlight. I'm also gonna think about glazing once I get started here, because I don't wanna lose my drawing completely. Okay, so let's look for this basic shape. And this is a really good time to employ your idea of negative space. Don't think of it as clouds, just think of it as a blob that you're copying, and that can help you. Okay, I'm gonna go in with this little bit darker gray. Okay, so this sail stands against a lighter background, and that's where I can notice that here and put that in here. So despite this dark sky that Van Goyen has given us, this stormy sky, he's able to show us details because of the contrast between dark and light. Okay, so I'm gonna put this in here. And I'm gonna glaze some of this because I don't wanna lose this brown. Don't wanna miss it. And here's where we start to understand how important it is to cover the white of the paper. So I'm always telling you with acrylic, you want to cover the white of the paper, because not only are these bright spots distracting, but they help us, they prevent us from really seeing the painting and the contrast that we're creating. Okay, so I'm going to put this gray in here, but then go back in with the brown. And I could go and paint this little mast over top. Again, I don't need to have that in right there, but okay. Now, I think that this bluish dark that we have grades a little bit towards a lighter color. So I'm just gonna put the tiniest bit of white in here to be able to create this gradient. And again, Van Goyen's painting is bigger and more detailed than ours. We're trying to learn how he uses color. We're practicing how to mix color. Okay. Yeah, see, this looks like a painting. Okay, so as we come into finishing this, I'm just gonna look real quick at where are my darks and where are my highlights that I need to put in. And so I definitely need a highlight right here and right above. So I'm gonna put a little bit of white in here. I'm gonna glaze it actually, because I just wanna preserve my drawing underneath, especially right here. And this is so exciting visually in this painting. A little bit of light here. I'll push. See if I can grab a little bit of this brown. I just want to put this light breaking through the clouds, because that's in some ways what this painting is really about. I think one of the reasons this painting is so powerful is because it's almost an argument between hope and despair as seen through the clouds in VanGoyen's painting. He's got a little more brown in here than I do. Okay, and the last thing is I don't have this ship or these two little ships, and so I'm gonna put that in here. Here's the brush I'm looking for. So this sort of like medium dark gray is what I'm going to use for this. I'm just going to make this shape. Need the paint to flow just a little more. I have another little one here, and I already had put the reflection of that boat in here. This boat just has a dark spot underneath it. Too much water. And I'm just gonna put a little bit of light over here in this building, and this sail. Okay, so I'm gonna lighten the brown here, because that light that's coming from over here is affecting this building. And I can be a little less careful about my paint as I get to the end here. So this is the color study. I'm gonna let it dry. I'm gonna take off the tape and I'm gonna have nice clean lines where, you know, I painted over the tape, and I understand Van Gogh's painting, the contrast that he uses, how he achieves that drama, and also how to simplify painting with 3 colors. So I will see you next time.